102.7 WMOM. Welcome back to KLB in the afternoon, 4:46 on this beautiful Friday afternoon, closing out your week. Thanks a lot for joining us. Remember, be here with you till 7 o'clock. Still taking your requests at 231-843-1027. But right now, we have a very special guest in studio. Congressman Pete Hoekstra is joining us right now here live in the MOM studios. Congressman, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Hey, good to be with you. Thank you.
This month, Congressman Hoekstra, you had a little bit of a verbal spat with President Obama in a recent trip to West Michigan for the opening of an advanced battery factory in your hometown of Holland, wherein President Obama's speech, he seemed to take a shot at you personally. You have been outspoken about your disagreements with the president's economic stimulus plans. What about the stimulus do you not support, and how would your economic plan for Michigan be different?
Well, I think the numbers on this battery plant in Holland are very, very clear. $150 million of federal money, $100 million of state money, and $50 of local. $300 million of special tax breaks or direct infusion into the South Korean company for 300 potential jobs. Who won't take that deal? I mean, who listening today wouldn't say, hey, honey, get the paperwork. I want that deal. I will guarantee you a job for 20 years at $50,000 a year. And, this is the deal I'll make with the federal government. You give me $1 million, I'll hire one person for 20 years, and I'll guarantee, no potential here, I'll guarantee $50,000 a year in payroll. That is a bad stimulus plan. And it's the government picking winners and losers. What I'll do as governor is create a better economic environment for all the people of Michigan so that they all have the opportunity to compete and create jobs, not that they have to wait for the blessing of the president or a governor to be able to create a job that everybody else in Michigan is going to be paying for.
Well, again, we're speaking to Congressman Hoekstra here, and speaking of jobs, Michigan clearly needs all the jobs we can get. And one way people have suggested is through more free trade agreements. Specifically, the president announced a renewed effort to pass a trade deal with South Korea. Do you think these deals actually creating jobs in Michigan, or are they just leading to more outsourcing of jobs?
If you get a good deal, they can create jobs. The problem with South Korea is they're selling a lot of South Korean cars here in the United States of America. They put up all kinds of barriers to us selling cars into South Korea. Let's make it a fair and level playing field, and I'm for it. Mm-hmm. If it creates an advantage for South Koreans, no, there's no reason why we shouldn't have the same access to their markets that we provide them to ours.
Again, we're talking to Congressman Pete Hoekstra, who's running in the primary election here August 3rd. And Congressman, these days party lines seem to be thicker than ever. And speaking as a young voter, I think it's easier to feel apathetic when you feel there's so little cooperation in Washington between the left and the right. In your nearly 20 years in Washington, what are some ways you have worked with the Democrats? And what will you do if you reach Lansing what are some ways that you're going to reach across the aisle and have some cooperation among everyone?
Sure. We're going to go out on November 3, the day after the election, and start building personal relationships with the Democrats that are going to be serving in the legislature. This all begins with trust and integrity, building that kind of a relationship. I've done it in Washington. Federal prison industry is an industry that competes with companies like Metalworks and those types of folks, Hayworth here in this community. We worked on a bipartisan basis with Congressman Barney Frank to make sure that American workers would be able to compete against federal prisons. Barney Frank is probably one of the most liberal Democrats in the House of Representatives, somebody that we don't have much in common with. But we were able to work together on that for over 10 years. Things like reorganizing the intelligence community. I worked with Jane Harmon and Joe Lieberman to get that done. So we've reached across the aisle. You'll notice that in this election, not only have people like Jim Dobson and Bill Bennett endorsed my campaign, but so have the Teamsters, so have the carpenters, and so have the firefighters. So I've demonstrated an ability to build relationships, get things done.
Again, we're talking to Congressman Pete Hoekstra here on 102.7 WMOM. Obviously, here in Ludington, the Great Lakes, a lot of people rely on it for jobs, and it seems between Asian carp from Chicago, oil flowing down the Kalamazoo River, it feels like our Great Lakes and water system is constantly in danger. What are you going to do if you become governor to protect the shores?
Well, we're going to continue the same things that I've done as a congressman in terms of making sure that we remediate the toxic sites, that we put in place focused efforts to deal with specific problems. We were in Ludington today. We're here for a very specific reason. We've celebrated the heritage between this community and the Great Lakes and the Coast Guard. Over the last number of years, we made arrangements and we worked to get the 44 back to Ludington. We worked on keeping the lighthouse and putting it into public hands under local control here in Ludington. And today we transferred over from the federal government to the community, to the Historical Society, the old Coast Guard station. So we've worked on this relationship. Hey, my congressional district represents 200 miles of Lake Michigan shoreline. I understand the relationship between the lake and the communities in this state.
Well, of course, and you've represented, for nearly 20 years this district, and you talk about leaving this district now, running for governor, but of course there is a race now for the 2nd Congressional District. We had Bill Huizinga in here yesterday. Are you officially supporting any candidates for your seat?
No, I'm not. A number of these guys are my friends. They're involved in a heated primary. Hopefully they'll get through Tuesday. They'll be somewhat friends, and whoever wins that race, I hope that they all get behind them. And support it.
Again, we're talking to Congressman Pete Hoekstra, who has a big primary coming up August 3rd. And as you know, Congressman, part of your campaign isn't just convincing voters that you'd be the man for the job, but it's also convincing people that it's worth their time to go vote in a primary election. It can be hard enough sometimes to get voters out in November. So what would you say to someone listening right now who has no plans of voting Tuesday? What would you say to convince them that it's worth their time?
Hey, it's Michigan's future. Well, you got to pick. You got to pick, and you got to pick wisely. You need to be part of the process. This is absolutely essential. This election, you'll be picking your next governor on Tuesday. There's five Republicans that you can choose among, 2 Democrats. After Tuesday, there's going to be 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. So the big decision and the big choice is going to be made on Tuesday, and then you'll get to choose between the Republican and the Democrat after that. But this is one of these things where your participation in the primary makes a huge difference and where you can make an impact with your vote.
Congressman Pete Hoeksta joining us here on KOB in the afternoon. 102.7 WMOM. Congressman, last question before I let you go here. You're campaigning, at least for the primary. It's really coming down to the wire. What are your goals these last couple days before the primary? And what do you want voters to remember about Congressman Pete Hoekstra when they walk in on Tuesday and see your name on the ballot?
Well, we're going out. We're going to continue and do the exact same thing that we've done for the last year. Get our message out about getting government out of the way, reduce government spending, reform the tax code, which will create an environment where people and investors can go in and create jobs. It's about a laser focus on job creation, economic, building an economic model that allows for investment. The thing that I think people need to know are a couple things. I've got the background to do this job. I've got 15 years experience in the private sector. I've got government experience. I've got leadership experience in the private sector and government. I can get this done. I'm a true conservative, 100% pro-life, pro-gun, pro-business community, pro-family. And maybe, the other thing that sets me apart from the other candidates, I've run a positive campaign. By the time that this campaign is over, one of my opponents will probably have spent more than $2 million trashing me and distorting my record. If you vote for him, he'll do the same thing when he gets to Lansing. I've not. I've set a standard that says we're going to run a positive campaign, talk about Michigan's future. We're going to bring that same kind of can-do, positive attitude to Lansing so that we can get things done. And together, we'll make Michigan better.
Well, again, that's Congressman Pete Hoekstra. He is running, of course, in the Republican primary this Tuesday, August 3rd. Again, it's so important to get out and vote, even in these primary elections. So once again, Congressman Pete Hoekstra, I want to thank you a lot for coming on and joining us on KOB in the afternoon.
Hey, thank you.
Best of luck in the future. We hope to talk to you again soon.
We gave up on luck a few months ago. It's all about hard work.
All right, again, that was Congressman Pete Hoekstra here on 102.7 WMOM. We will step aside for a couple minutes. A look at your news coming up after the break, and the Hungry Howie Live Drive at 5. It's right around the corner. Your chance to win pizza. That's coming up right here on 102.7 WMOM.